Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Violent Hippie Podcast. On today's episode of the Violent Hippie Podcast, we have Riley and Matt Starcher. They're a father-son pair of awesome human beings, and they own a company called M.A.D Seasoning. And Riley is also one of our Violent Hippie BJJ students and a former wrestling state champion.
Yep, two-time state champ.
Two-time state champion. And excellent student and practitioner of jiu-jitsu. I'm super lucky to have him. And Matt Starcher, his father, is a professional cook as well. And they went all in on a business together, and it's up and coming and growing every day. And we all use their products, support them, and you should too. And I'm sure you will want to after we let them tell their story here on the podcast. And I'm looking forward to learning more myself. So without further ado, I also have Michael Doe with me, Professor Michael Doe, as my co-host today. So, let me get it started here. So, thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your guys' self, and then we'll get into your journey together with the business and all that. We'll do age before beauty.
Awesome.
Take it away.
So I guess we should start with how we came up with M.A.D. We talked about that earlier. People thinking that it was a wrestling thing, and it really wasn't a wrestling thing. M.A.D's a play on the Mac Dad, and the idea behind it is I'm a father of 4 kids. I've got 3 daughters and then Riley. And
that's why his hair is long, huh?
Right. It's funny, we'll get into it in a little bit, but I spent years, 19, almost 20 years in the corporate world as an executive chef. And you always had to have, your hair had to be tight, you couldn't have too much facial hair. And right when we decided to burn the bridge, burn the boat, burn the ship, I was like, I'm never going to cut my hair again. And so we'll get into that in a little while. But so the idea behind the M.A.D is, first of all, I base everything on these 3 things. Number 1 is love my family. Whoever I call my family, they're the most important things I have going on in my life. And that's the number 1 thing. Put it above absolutely everything. So I never wanted to miss a wrestling match, a wrestling practice. I never wanted to miss a dance competition for the girls. And I don't know if any of y'all have been to a competitive dance competition where you look at it and there's 360 numbers and your kid has number 88 and number 207 and number 315. You got to sit and wait and watch all those. I never wanted to miss any of it. And then number 2 is find something that you're really, really, really passionate about, where time doesn't matter. All of a sudden you're working from 6 in the morning to 8 or 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and you don't even care how many hours it is. Where if it's a regular job, you do. You think, well, that was 13 hours. I'm getting paid for 13 hours. You don't even know what it is. And then the last thing is work your tail off. So those are those 3 things. And the idea behind the M.A.D and M.A.D Seasoning is we wanted to help people cook better tasting food in a real simple way. And that's how M.A.D Seasoning came about. As a chef, I've been a chef now for almost 30 years. And I always had a seasoning blend on the line with me that we just put on anything. I just never thought of it as would somebody really want to use this seasoning that has no particular flavor. It is good on anything you put salt and pepper on, and all you do is sprinkle it on, and all of a sudden your food tastes better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not magic, but we like to think it's kind of like magic.
It's magic.
Right. It's magic. So that's how it kind of happened. And, when you have a family of 4 and my wife and everything is supported by this one job, and then you decide, I'm not going to do that job anymore. You lose your 6-8 weeks of vacation, sick leave, you lose your insurance, you lose all this stuff. So it's a big deal when you decide to stop something.
Go all in, yeah.
But when I'm so covered in goosebumps right now, y'all. When you're so passionate about it and you know from the very soul that it's going to work, because you're just going to, you talked a little bit about that when you went to and did the followed the Spartans, their walk. When you go all in on something like that and you know it's going to work, you're going to find a way to do it or you're going to die trying. And that's exactly what you said. And I feel the same way. This is it. I've burnt the ship. There's nothing I can do but move forward. And we're moving forward. And we've been really blessed. And I've got an amazing family supporting me. And one of my biggest supporters is my son. And it's getting back to my top 3 things. It's so cool when someone that you love with all of your heart unconditionally supports you. And that's what my son does. And that's what my daughter's doing. That's what my wife does. And I don't see how we can't succeed with this because of that.
Right. Yeah, it's like a dream come true, But you wouldn't get that kind of reward, and that itself isn't a reward, but you wouldn't get that without that serious risk you took. Like you said, like leaving your corporate job or whatever to pursue a passion, but you also nailed it, and I tell people all the time, follow your passion, because the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is that you're trying to do, in order to be successful at it, you're going to have to work like crazy.
Right.
And you're going to have to outwork everybody, the competition, everyone around you, yourself, whatever. Like, you have to go all in. And it's much, much easier to do that when you're passionate about what you're doing, because it doesn't feel like work. Like I said, I'll spend all day on this, and this is just fun to me.
Because you love the process.
Right, but if you're doing something that you don't want to do and you're just trading your time for money in exchange or whatever, it's a totally different thing. And you're not going to be enjoying it or whatever. So, yeah, and, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, when I, left the SEAL teams, it was, at the time in the SEAL teams, I was getting a re-enlistment bonus, every 4 years, like a nice chunk of money, a big chunk of money, and, you get it tax-free and all this stuff. So, and that job is so dangerous that I'm like, hey, I could die at any day, mm-hmm. like training, operating, whatever. I could die at any moment. So I'm going to live life, and get the things I want now. And I'm just going to get that credit card, let it ride. So, and I was like, I'll just pay it off when I get my bonus.
Right.
So at the time, I had $30,000 in credit card debt, because I was just getting, hey, yeah, I want that. I've always been real generous, and with my family, everything, even when I didn't have it, because I'm like, I'll get it.
Right.
And pay it back. And then, then when my t-shirt business started, taking off and all this stuff, and I'm like, well, maybe I want to pursue fighting, and maybe I want to get out of the SEAL teams. And I'm like, well, shit, now I'm $30,000 in debt, and I'm like, they're dangling this, re-enlistment bonus in front of me and all that money, and it's like, fuck. Like, now I'm gonna leave. Not only am I gonna leave the SEAL teams in my paycheck, like my salary, I'm also walking away from this bonus that I was relying on to get me out of debt.
Right.
And now, so on top of that, and I'm going to pursue something that isn't a guarantee, success thing or whatever. But hey, sometimes you just got to jump out of the plane and figure out how to pull the parachute on the way down.
Right.
Sure. Right. But no risk, no reward. And high risk, high reward. And so
I get it totally too. And it's one of those things that this is something that's come to me here recently is, I want MAD seasoning to become this right here. I want this to become America's seasoning. I want that to become America's
Made in
seasoning.
America.
And the thing about it is, it's the American dream. That right there is the American dream. Think about that when you think of, you're doing something that you don't really like. I didn't mind my job before. I was a chef and, working in the corporate world. But, you had to follow all the rules. You had to do what the corporation wanted you to do. But what if you left that corporate job and you started doing your own thing that you're really passionate about, and y'all, MAD is not just MAD. MAD stands for makes a difference. So we know this makes a difference on your food. If you put this on your eggs and don't put it on your eggs and taste the two together, the ones you didn't put it on does not taste as good as the one you put it on. It's as simple as that. You can do it on avocados, you can do it on pasta, you can do it on whatever. Makes a difference, and then every single one that we sell, on the back of that card,
Yeah, I love these. I posted this on my story when I saw it. I was like, that's awesome.
is 10 ways to make a difference. And I haven't quite figured that out yet, how we're going to continue to make a difference with MAD seasoning. I know we're making a difference every single time we teach people to cook and use this to become better cooks. Because in the long run, all of this is, my main thing with this is, I want more people, and it gets back to loving your family and loving your friends. I want more people to sit around that table because your hamburgers are the best they've ever been. Your steak is the best it's ever been, and more people want to sit around your table. And when you sit around a table and cook for somebody and share food for somebody, it doesn't matter that we don't have the same football team. It doesn't matter that we might not get along politically. It doesn't matter we can all sit down and share a meal and fellowship together. And if your food tastes good, people want to do that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's a thing that it doesn't matter your political affiliation, it doesn't matter your religious views, it doesn't matter your race, your nothing. It's everyone on the mat has the same common denominator. We're all speaking the same language of jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And it's something that you sweat together, you bleed together, you're fully present because you have to be.
Right.
If you're not fully present, there's consequences, physical ones.
Right.
So that's what I feel. And it's funny, my favorite thing and my favorite activity to do with friends, family is I like to go out to eat. I like to go out to eat and just have everyone sit down at the table and eat our appetizers, drink our drinks, and enjoy a good meal and be served and not have to clean up any dishes or whatever. I know obviously you're the cook, but there's enjoyment in preparing meals and stuff like that. And I'm sure just like I cook as well. It's not my favorite, but I'm decent at it. I got a couple dishes up my sleeve. But when you serve people a meal that you've made too, there's definitely fulfillment and enjoyment in that as well. So yeah. I've been using the MAD seasoning on all my dishes, taking it to another level.
I put on my eggs every day.
Right.
That's another good thing about it. It's just it's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
It takes the guesswork out of what am I going to put on my chicken, my eggs, my avocado, anything. It's all in the one.
Yeah, I always have to watch their stories and posts after I eat, because if I haven't ate yet and I'm looking at their stories, I'm like, man, I'm super hungry because they're cooking up some delicious stuff.
It's 0 calories as well, which is great. And it's awesome. It's awesome stuff. We use it. Everyone, at our gym uses it. At MASF, we all use it. And everyone I've shared it with loves it. And I know people, followers of mine are using it, and they all like it too. So I'm super excited and to see you guys grow. And obviously I want to do everything I can to help you guys grow, because I also see my own journey, in you guys. You're just a little bit behind, or you're just starting, and it's really cool to see, and I want to help you guys get to my level and beyond. Be huge. It'd be crazy to see you guys bigger than ever. It's awesome.
Did you always fight locally?
I want to. I want to read this, the card that came with it. I posted this on my story. It's really cool. So it says 10 ways to be mad, make a difference. Pick up 10 pieces of trash. 1, pick up 10 pieces of trash. 2, plant a tree. 3, leave good tips. 4, buy a cup of coffee for someone, pay it forward. 5, thank a service person. 6, cook a meal for someone. 7, donate books. 8, recycle, reuse. 9, stop complaining and do something. 10, smile and compliment often. Spread kindness. Let's make a difference together. We can start a mad revolution. It can start with you. Be the change you want to see in the world. Gandhi. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Great reminders, and this is all free. Other than the tip maybe,
Right.
or coffee, whatever.
Right.
But I mean, it's something that everyone can do, and I've tried to. I don't know how long you've been following me or whatever, but I've been, this is kind of how I like to live my life as well, and we do things, like we'll organize days where we go pick up trash and stuff like that. And I'll encourage my followers to do the same, give out, gift cards to MASF. If, hey, post a video or picture of you picking up trash and we'll send you a free, that's the violent hippie in me, all that stuff is great. And
Earth Day already passed?
yeah, it did just did.
Okay.
Just did.
Yeah, I think I saw you guys did like something in the water, maybe.
Yeah.
At the beach.
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
Yeah, something in the water festival.
Yeah,
It's
I remember
ironic
you making
that-
the video,
It's
and
this
like
weekend.
you guys had all this good time leaving your trash everywhere,
Yeah, they definitely left something in the water.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
But yeah, man, this is all great stuff, and I definitely try to live my life, in this manner. So when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is great. These are, obviously, Riley. The way I met Riley was when I opened up Violent Hippie Academy, my jiu-jitsu academy. Riley and a few other guys came in to do it, and we hit it off, and super nice kid, and super hard worker, and really strong wrestling background. So wrestlers always have a great base for jiu-jitsu because they already have such great grappling experience. So got to get things going with that, and then learning about the MAD seasoning and all that led us to all this. So.
And let me say
Yeah,
one
go
more thing too. So getting back to the family side of it, having a support system that is willing to. I'm very, very, very ADHD. I've always been that way, and to have somebody to keep me focused, and that's what my family does. That's what my wife Rhonda does. We've been together since 1986, and we've been married since 1995. But to have somebody that is totally unconditionally supporting you, and that's when it gets back to loving the family first. So even though I have this real passion for this, and I'm willing to work my tail off, if I didn't have the support system
It makes it harder.
it makes it so much harder.
Mhm.
So all of it, that card, what you're doing, all of it, if we with intention decide I'm going to make a difference, we all can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just happen to use food. You use your Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you use your smashing greens. It's crazy how powerful that is to have the ability to make a difference if we just try to make a difference.
Yeah, effort.
Mhm.
Intentions and effort. That's what it boils down to. So, all right. So we heard a little bit about you. I want to hear from you, Riley.
Yeah, so I guess to start, it's crazy the way I got into wrestling. This was something me and my dad really bonded about early, was WWE, the fake wrestling. Like, I absolutely loved it.
As did I.
Wrestling's not fair.
Yeah, and that was a heartbreaking day when I found it out, and it was actually this day, right? So we were sitting in the car and we were driving past, and I saw a sign that said wrestling club, and I was like, man, I want to go do that, Dad. You know, I want to go be Rey Mysterio. You know, like I've been working on this for years. You know, and he was like, yeah, we can go, but he's like, this is real wrestling, and I was like, you know, I didn't think anything of it because real wrestling to me was WWE.
Yeah, The Rock.
Yeah, I was
cold.
dude, man, loved it.
Ricky
And,
Steamboat, Ric
Yeah,
Flair
his
for me.
elbow.
He's going back in the day.
Long before y'all. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember watching WWE when I was in like 4th and 5th grade. Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, they were like the baddest motherfuckers on the planet.
It was
Right.
WWF at
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, WWF.
Well, I'm used to Saturday wrestling, where I would watch wrestling and then I would watch Kung Fu Theater.
Ooh.
And that's what we did every single Saturday morning when I was growing up.
And
That
then
was-
you're like, man, what would happen if Jackie Chan ran into Stone Cold? What do you think's gonna happen?
right.
You know, because
I don't think
they were the baddest motherfuckers on the planet at that time.
For sure, but then so then we went to the practice, and I remember I walked in. You know, a wrestling room is just mats, you know, and a bunch of kids, and everybody has the wrestling shoes on. I'm sitting here thinking like, well, where's the ropes, you know? And I go up to the coach, Joe Harvich, my first coach, and I was like, hey man, like where are the ropes? You know, I'm trying to wrestle, and he was like, son, this is real wrestling, and I fell in love with it right there, you know, and I love the one-on-one aspect. You know, I've always been smaller, so it was a sport where like being smaller is actually sometimes better, you know? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I started wrestling, and I will say from those years all the way to high school, Dad was at every workout, every tournament.
What grade were you in?
I was 38 pounds. I think I was 6. So whatever grade you're in, 6th grade, I think. 1st grade maybe?
Yeah, so you started kindergarten, 1st grade at like 38, 40 pounds, something like that.
Yeah, and then I fell in love with it. Had a good first year. I think I won states first year, right? At an AAU, 45 pounds.
I don't know.
Long time ago, but yeah, I had some good success with it, and I fell in love with it, and then
I was gonna say you'd have to be at least 55 pounds now.
but yeah, and then got into high school. You know, was either gonna go wrestle in college or kick off this MAD season and stuff, and you know, at that age, it was a tough decision, you know, but I knew, like we were talking earlier, you know, in my heart, I knew that we were going to make it work, because we were doing some cooking classes then, you know, and I made that decision. I was like, you know, I'm just going to kick off this business and run it off, you know, and do it with my dad, and then luckily enough, I got into coaching, so I was still able to stay with the wrestling scene, so I've been coaching now for 5 years. And I get a lot of joy out of that.
So you've been doing the MAD seasoning for 5-6 years? What?
So I think I like to say we have been serious about MAD seasoning since January of 2021.
Okay.
That's when we decided this is no longer
Like a hobby.
Yeah, because you know, then we talked a little bit before the show about I didn't know MAD seasoning was going to be my thing. You know, it was always it was just part of an ingredient that I always put on
Yeah.
everything.
So why don't you start from like your how did you you said you were an executive chef, but like what were you doing on the side on your own? Like were you just cooking as a hobby, like and filming it, or were you putting on cooking classes or something like that? Or
I like to start this with you never know what's going to happen. You're put in situations that you can decide, okay, I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it. And so I went to college. I went to Great Bridge High School. I was a C and D student. Even before that, I went to Western Branch High School here in Chesapeake. I went from my kindergarten years to my elementary years at E.W. Chittum, and then Western Branch Junior High School, and then Western Branch High School. And in my sophomore year, the summer after my sophomore year, my mom remarried and moved us out to Great Bridge, out in the country off Benefit Road, in between Shillelagh Road and Bunch of Walnuts, back in 1986. So it was as country as you could be, and I thought my world had ended. That summer's when I met my wife. And so I met my wife, and then just barely graduated from Great Bridge, which is important. This is important. I was a terrible student because I didn't care. I just knew I needed to make C's and D's, and I could pass.
I used to say D's are just B's without their belts on. I was a horrible student as well.
I was a horrible student.
Zero homework.
Right.
I had to go to summer school, all that shit.
Me too. I had to go to summer school, and I would blame stuff like I don't have anybody helping me out. I just don't care. And then I decided, okay, I'll go to college. So I went to TCC because anybody can get into TCC. So I went to TCC and did really good in TCC, and then went to George Mason University. And I was going to become a lawyer, government politics. And then I didn't do very good at George Mason after a couple of years. I think I'm 2 classes away from graduating with my bachelor's degree. And still is a goal in life. We'll see what happens. I left, came home, and started waiting tables. And I asked the chef, her name's Jeanette Harris, I'll never forget her, at Key West Restaurant, which used to be at Holiday Inn in Greenbrier in Chesapeake, Virginia. I said, Jeanette, can I try cooking out? She said, sure. You're going to start washing dishes. And I said, okay. She said, after you wash dishes a little bit, then you'll start prepping, and then you'll go from there. And that's where it started. And right when I went into that kitchen, and right when I'm covered in goosebumps, y'all, right when I started washing dishes, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And so I started going in, and it became my world. I didn't care what time I had to go into work. I didn't care when I got off. When I was off, I was learning. Y'all, this is before the internet. This is actually reading cookbooks. This is actually reading magazines. This is actually, long before you could go on the internet and check this stuff out. So I did that. I did really well at that restaurant, Key West, and then I went to M.A.D, and I worked with Chuck Sass at M.A.D. I was there for a couple years, and then I went from there to become a Thai jerk sous chef at Bistro 210, one of the best restaurants in the area at the time. And I learned a tremendous amount. Then I went to Johnson & Wales, and here's where it started. I went to Johnson & Wales, and I became the best student there was. I wanted to win everything. I wanted to devote myself to so I was going to school from 6 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd drive from Robin Hood Road there in Norfolk to Bistro 210 in downtown Norfolk, and I'd run the restaurant from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and I'd do it every day. So I started at 6 and ended at 11. No kids, just my wife, and then from there, I was at Johnson & Wales. I went up to the Willard. I became executive chef at Ship's Cabin. And then we started having kids. And when my first kid came along, Mia, my priorities changed. I knew my purpose in life was to raise these kids, because I didn't quite get that with my folks. So it was one of those things that I was never going to miss anything. I wasn't going to work any more weekends, so I went looking for a corporate job, and that's how I got on with a company called Nestle. And I was with Nestle for a few years, and then I got on with Cisco, and I was with Cisco for 16 years. And back when I was at Thai Jerk's Bistro, we used to make something called Crazy Salt. So this was 97, 98, somewhere in there. We started making something called Crazy Salt that we put on our lamb. And Thai Jerk told me a long time ago, he said, as a chef, you need to learn how to salt your food. It's the most important seasoning. And never thought anything of it. And then, so I went to Cisco, and I was doing the corporate world. My goal was, I'm going to become president of Cisco. That's what I want to do. And then after about 10, 12 years, I decided I needed to do something else. So the last 2 years I was with Cisco, I started building M.A.D. And that's the company that I would build. So I would wake up in the morning 2 hours before I normally would wake up. And that's a big thing too, y'all. If you were to wake up 2 hours earlier every single day, you gain 2 hours. Even if you need to take a 30-minute nap, you've done gained an hour and a half. And you do that every single day, that stuff really, really, really adds up. So I would wake up early and work on that stuff, building this, making business cards and that sort of stuff. And then I'd go to Cisco, and then I'd come home, we'd grab a bite to eat, and then we'd do dance, or we'd do wrestling or whatever. And then I'd come home, and when the kids went to bed, I wouldn't play games or anything. I would get back to building the spraying. So I had been building it all along for 2 years. And then here's what happened. So my job, they asked if or they said, I'm prepping in the kitchen, and my boss calls the kitchen and says, hey, we need to see you in my office. And I was like, uh-oh. So I walk over there and HR was there. And I was like, oh, here we go. So I sit down and they say they're eliminating my position, but we have a like position, same amount of money, same everything, just doing something else at Cisco. And you have 48 hours to choose. So I went home and talked to Rhonda about it and my wife about it. And after the 48 hours, I was to go back into work.
I went to bed that night. Now, this is big when you're thinking, I've got 4 kids. I've got one that's in college at the time. I've got Riley, who I thought was going to wrestle in college, so he'd be in college. And then I've got Ruby and Anna, and all of my kids were A students. Isn't that weird? I was Riley didn't ever bring a book home, but he was a straight A student. He had that because his mom, Rhonda, was an amazing, amazing student.
They probably had tablets at the time now, so.
Right. So it's, so I, when I forget what I was going to say.
Went to bed.
Oh yeah, so I went to bed that night. I'd already called and spoke to my new boss, who was going to be my new boss, and we had already made the decision. Okay, let's go back to Cisco, and I had been there a long time. And what happens with corporate jobs, y'all, and this is a great message for people, you get stuck because you're so
comfortable
and in it.
Listen up, Mike.
and you are so comfortable with the position that you're in, and you're so far along in your career. We only get one chance at this, which that's a point both ways. You only get one chance. Do you start again? Or do you not start again and continue to do something that is okay, but it's not what you're the very best at? And when you find something that you're the very best at, you're going to be the best at it. It seems weird to say that, but if you love what you're doing, you're going to be the best at it because you're
going to put in the effort.
You're going to put in the effort, and time no longer matters. Pay no longer matters. I mean, you have to find a way to make.
Well, that's what a salary is basically. What jobs pay you to give up your dreams?
Exactly. You're fulfilling someone else's dream by doing, and you can do that. I can fulfill my kids' dreams by giving up on my dream, or I can chase my dream that benefits my family. And what we did was, y'all.
But you wouldn't be where you are without that obsessive work ethic, but that passion is what allows you to give that sort of obsessive effort without driving yourself mad. Not in a play on words, but
I agree.
You know what I mean?
So I decided when I went to bed. So I'm downstairs doing something in the kitchen, and Riley comes up to me, and Riley says, "So what did you decide to do?" And I said, "Well, we've decided to go back to Cisco." And so Riley all along knew we had already been doing some cooking classes. We had already been doing things to build this brand. We had not started really pushing M.A.D seasoning yet. And Riley, when I told him that, I just saw disappointment in his eyes.
I'm not mad, Dad, but I'm just disappointed.
Yeah. And so he didn't tell me that, but I went to bed, and at 4 a.m, I woke up and told Rhonda, I said, "Rhonda, I'm not going back to Cisco. I'm going back in the morning, and I'm going to tell them I'm going to take the severance package, and we're going to chase this dream. I believe this is our opportunity to do what we want to do, and I believe in my heart we can do it." And this was before M.A.D seasoning was even really a part of it yet. Yeah. I was using M.A.D seasoning, and we were giving it away to people, just making it not a big deal. And so I went to Cisco the next day, and I was absolutely thrilled with what I was doing. I knew I was making a decision that was for my family, that was for me, and I knew the opportunity was gonna, my end goal with all of this is I want to motivate people. I want to motivate people to make a difference. I just use food, but I want to motivate people to be better dads. I want to motivate people to be better coaches. I want them to be mad moms, to be mad dads, to be mad coaches, to be mad fort builders in their backyard, to be mad kids. Anybody can be mad. Make a difference at what you're doing. Find what you love. So went to Cisco and told them I wasn't going to do it. And so we left Cisco, and I left. And when I pulled out of the parking lot, I was like, here we go. Let's do this.
Yep.
And so that this was a year before COVID happened. So my team went from, 13, 15 people, my kitchen team at Kitchen Barn, to 2.
Cisco.
So I would have lost my job anyways.
Yeah.
And so I left and got a little severance package that we could live on for a little bit.
Nice.
And while we were building this. And so we started making MAD seasoning at the house, grinding black pepper in a little coffee grinder with masks on before masks were a thing. We would grind this, and we'd put it in these little Ziploc bags, and we called them dime bags because it looked like we were making drugs and putting a piece of tape on it. And all of our kids did it. All of our kids were a part of it.
Yeah.
And then we started delivering it in our cars, driving around, delivering it, not having any idea. All of our labels and stuff were printed on our little computers. We had handwritten notes in there, thanking them, putting them in these little stainless steel containers. And then we decided, let's get serious about this and incorporate the business. So we went to a lawyer and spoke to a lawyer and had him help us out, went to an accountant, had him help us out, all of them saying, I don't know, talking to the manufacturer. And he said, the manufacturer told me, he said, probably 85% of these people that do this
Fail.
Yeah. Same thing with my lawyer. My lawyer said, Greg, nothing against you, but my lawyer said, I don't want you to invest too much in this. Don't trademark it. Don't do any of that sort of stuff because you don't want to invest too much in it. One of the other executive chefs at Cisco said, there's no way you'll be able to sell salt and pepper. Immediately put it in my brain. And I'm at Cisco.
It's all these haters projecting their own shit onto you. It's like, bitch, I didn't ask for your fucking opinion on that. Don't worry about that.
I'm at Cisco looking at my prep list, all the things that I have to do, and I'm thinking, what can I eliminate from my prep list? Why are we making this seasoning every single day? Why can't I just go over to my spice rack and buy it? Why isn't somebody making a all-purpose seasoning that goes on anything you put salt and pepper on? There's Montreal seasoning. I
was gonna say, there is seasoning, right? Like multi-purpose seasoning and shit.
And all of them have some sort of flavor to them. This doesn't have a distinct flavor. This is salt and pepper and some other little magic we put in there, but it's all natural. And so when that happened, I said to myself, when I retire, that's what I'm going to do. Not realizing that, in a year or so, I'd be leaving Cisco. And
that's how a lot of successful businesses, things, come to be, is just like finding a solution to a problem, or or just making something more easy and convenient, and
So as a chef and as a cooking instructor, people are always coming up to me and saying, "Well, how can I cook better?" And one of the first things I would tell them is, do you season your food?
Yeah.
And then they say, well, what do I season it with? And I tell them fresh ground black pepper and salt. That was before we had this.
Mm-hmm.
And now I tell them, just season them with this, and your food will automatically taste better.
Yeah.
So that's the story behind MAD seasoning. Now, I remember when we went up and got our first pallet. Now, we did all this during COVID. At one point, the person that made our lids for us, they said the wait was 60 weeks. 60 weeks, because you can't just use any certain top. It has to be the right number of holes in it, and it has to fit your container. So the challenges of doing this during COVID was a challenge, but it was also an amazing blessing, and this is why it was a blessing. Nobody could go to a restaurant, so everybody had to cook. Everybody had a phone, and they were able to look up recipes. And I started posting TikTok videos and Instagram videos, and my TikTok videos blew up. And when they blew up, a company called Tasty, who makes videos on Facebook, jumped on a board, and they started posting some of my videos, and some of the videos got 7 million views. Wow. And when that happened, then we started selling MAD seasoning like crazy.
online all across the country.
And that's how it started. And it's, I'm still amazed with the story.
I still haven't gotten on TikTok really. I mean, I know it's like the new wave and everything, and
I think people look at it as in
I just see the dancing fucking.
That's how it
stupid
happened with
shit.
me. Mia, my oldest daughter, who's a photographer, she said, "Dad, you got to get on TikTok." And this was before COVID happened. And I had already been recording my stuff.
Well, I think your stuff is fitting for TikTok and Instagram Reels or whatever, because prepping food and especially cooking outdoors the way you do and all that, it's very visually appealing, and stimulating, and you can there's stages to everything you're doing, and then it's like people are also curious, like, well, maybe I can do that, and they can, and so I feel like your area of expertise or whatever is perfect for that, Whereas,
are you just using your phone?
Huh?
Are you just
And
using
I
your
do
phone when you record?
everything on my phone. I'm trying to get better at that. I'm trying to
it looks good.
not use. I'm getting ready to get a.
I'm a huge fan of just using the iPhone for
Right,
your
right.
videos.
The
You
only
don't
thing-
need to
Personal
overcomplicate it,
yeah.
The only thing I want to change on it is I want to get to where I'm using some sort of professional editing program. I use TikTok,
The
Inst-
iMovie or whatever.
iMovie, TikTok, and Instagram.
That's all you need.
But if I want to share it with other companies, like I do videos and stuff for folks. So I need to be able to share it. But that's something that I'm working on. So
Well, Mike and I, when I started I didn't have an Instagram or any social media or anything when I was, before, and I just started fighting, and I was fighting, became a champion, was competing a lot in jiu-jitsu and all that, and I just couldn't afford the tournaments, because they were expensive. Jiu-jitsu tournaments are like $100 plus a tournament, and I wanted to compete all the time and everything, and I was, I was $30,000 in credit card debt, so I'm trying to make money on the side to, change that or whatever, and it ended up being, okay, you can start an Instagram, and maybe that's a way you can give back to sponsors. Hey, like, I have an Instagram, I've got 10 followers, because me and Mike were training together at jiu-jitsu, and he did videography a little bit, and so we started making comedy skits and that kind of stuff on Instagram, and we shot all those skits pretty much on our iPhones, and then we'd go back and Mike would edit the videos on like iMovie or just some basic computer program, but we'd put together all that and post them, and that's how we got started. And like at the time we would spend all day shooting a video, and just laughing our asses off, having a good time, go back to his house, edit it, laugh the whole time we're editing it, putting
Just
it
for
together.
maybe 10 likes,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like we would post the video, and it would get 1 view every minute.
yeah.
And like we'd refresh it. Oh yeah, we got 3 views. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But that shit was fun, and
That's-
we were doing that stuff, back in the day and you were only allowed to post 15-second videos on Instagram.
Yeah.
This was way before TikTok. But yeah, we were doing that kind of shit, and but now it's like, man, TikTok's, that's like where it's at. Everyone goes viral easy on TikTok and stuff, and but I just have not gotten into TikTok.
And it's the content you put too.
Right.
I think like cooking.
But yours is like really good for TikTok.
And that's what's so cool about the M.A.D business is it's not just the seasoning. We do the seasoning, we do the cooking classes, we do dinner at people's houses, we make videos. It's all under one thing. But if one's not firing off, we got other options, to keep constantly building. They all work off one another.
Yep. And you guys do farmers markets every weekend?
Yeah, so that's I'm figuring a 2-year plan with these farmers markets, maybe 3-year plan with these farmers markets, where we're really pushing M.A.D seasoning. And Riley does his own too. He goes and cooks, and we sample the M.A.D seasoning
So what do you bring a little barbecue?
Yeah.
Little grill. Yep.
Yeah,
What do you use? Charcoal?
I do when it's not there. Are you a charcoal fan or not?
Huh? But I use propane and propane accessories.
I use a butane.
Well, I'll tell you what, that M.A.D seasoning.
something else. But you know what also helped me a lot too was, I don't know if y'all have heard of Gary Vee.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of Gary Vee, and I read that book Crush It that had it's the black with the green writing on the outside. It's called Crush It. This is when he was just getting started real good, and that was his first book that I read, and I've probably read it 6 or 7 times, and that's what I did. I copied. I went from, and I'm a big journaler. I do it. I've got, every one of my kids has a journal that they haven't received yet that started when we found out they were pregnant, and I started writing stuff in the journal. How to grow tomatoes, how to change oil in the car, how to repair a flat tire on your bicycle, how to put the chain back on your bicycle. And all 4 of them have a handwritten journal that started when we found out they were pregnant from each of them. So I've been journaling for a long time. So I like to go back and look at my growth on Instagram. One of my goals was I wanted to have 1,000 followers on Instagram. And when I hit 500, I thought, holy mackerel, I am killing it. And it's the same thing, you know, and then I just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And Gary Vee pushes, just make tons of content. Mm-hmm. So whenever I buy a new iPhone, I buy as much storage as I can on it, so I don't ever have to get rid of anything. And I can go back 2 years from now and make
that's the other thing with your content is, man, you could make 50 meals, you know, and make a video for each of them, and now you can just recycle that, you know, and that's like super easy.
I always thought that you like.
Yeah,
were
Michael
cooking
was
something new
like,
every
dude,
day.
y'all
I
are
was
cooking
like-
every day.
And
like,
people
dude.
say that all the time, and it drives Rhonda and my kids crazy. They're saying, man, you must be so lucky. Like if we go to an event
Yeah.
and I'm standing there and they say, man, you are so lucky to be married to a chef. And I can just see Rhonda's eyes rolling as she's smiling when she cooks, you know, almost all the meals at the house and cooks much better than I do when it comes to that. But you know, as far as the way I make my content is I make it on my story. So I videotape all my stuff on my story, and my stories save to my camera reel. And then so my Instagram story has the story of me making the dish, and it might be, you know, 50 videos long in my story for 24 hours. And then I take those and turn that into a reel, and then it's saved to my camera reel. So I turn that into a TikTok video.
Yeah.
And then I can screenshot any picture from any of it and make individual posts on it. And then I can take all of it and make a long YouTube video. And I make it all from that original story that I'm taping on my story. So people are watching it live, and then I can just...
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a great, like I said, you have a great product or, you know, thing you do for that stuff. And then, like I said, you make 50 meals, you know, which you could easily do and do that for each one. And now you have content for a whole, you know, multiple years,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, and which is great because content is king. And, you know, and that's half the fight right there is creating the original content, but then having content that you can recycle. Like it's hard to do that with comedy skits because, you know, it's like once people have seen it, we've seen this comedy skit, you know, so it's only funny once, basically. And then, you know, so you have to wait a long time before you post it again if you're going to get any sort of, you know, engagement with it or whatever, people that haven't seen it. And then same with like workout videos, you know, it's like if you're recycling and posting the same workout video, it's people are like, what is this bitch not working out anymore? You know? And it's like, it's not that you're not working out every day. It's just like, you have to make that content, go through the effort of making that new content every day of you working out or whatever for it to be relevant. Same thing with sparring, fighting, any of that shit. So I didn't have that luxury of, you know, being able to recycle content and, you know, I mean, I was putting in so much effort with building my Instagram initially because it is, you know, I built it organically from the ground up, you know, same thing. And I mean, dude, it was a full-time job. Like on top of being in the SEAL teams, on top of fighting, on top of traveling and networking, on, you know, building the Instagram and thinking of, you know, well, okay, so maybe all I have is a picture, and I have to write a caption that, you know, takes me an hour long to come up with a caption that's, you know, good. And now, man, the fucking algorithm is just so unbelievably fucking shitty on Instagram. And it's like you have 100,000 followers, and Instagram will show your post to 10,000 or 5,000 of them. And if it doesn't get a ton of engagement right away, it just doesn't show it to the rest. And it's like, hey, you fucks, how about like the people that click, I want to see Mitch's content? How about you just show them the fucking content? Oh, I fucking hate Instagram because it's such an investment of time and effort and energy to build new content all the time. And it's like so discouraging when you go through that effort and then they only show it to a handful of people. And it's like, motherfucker, I have all these people that want to see my stuff. Right. Please show it to them. You know, shocking. And that's how it used to be in like years ago when I started Instagram. You know, the algorithm was way different, and we, you know, like my lives, all that shit would get with way less followers would get way more engagement. Now it's a nightmare. But so you're very lucky that you guys have that, you know, where you can just recycle that content and stuff, because it is so important to build your audience and everything.
So I remember when Mia, my oldest daughter, said, "Dad, you need to be on TikTok," and I said, "Oh God." I looked at it and I did a couple videos, and I was like, "It's just young people dancing and doing karaoke and stuff. It's just stupid." And then January of when COVID really started getting going, my last cooking class was on March 15th. March 17th, the little place where we did our cooking classes, they closed the store down. And so I had all this time on my hands because I wasn't working or anything. So I just went out to my cabin, that's what's on the card, and started building that cabin. I had been building it for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And I probably got 3 years worth of work done in like a month and a half, because I was able to leave my tools out there. I didn't have to pack it up each time. I could spend the night out there. And so I really started doing that and started making these videos.
Would you rather record them yourself, or
eventually
you like to have someone like
Mike could have built you this in a weekend?
Yeah. I think it would be nice to. I want to continue doing it myself, but I think it would be nice to have someone else recording some of the videos, someone that also knows what they're doing. You know, I know what I'm doing when I'm cooking, and I'm getting better at lighting. I'm getting better at angles. I'm getting better at all the things that, you know, I spend a lot of time watching how to make films, you know, and learning that sort of stuff. But when I really started pouring into TikTok, and I remember when my first video, I just brought a bunch of bricks out there, and I made a little oven out of the bricks, and then put a thing of oil on top of it in a cast iron pot.
French fries, right?
And cut up a potato and cooked them in that oil on that. And it looks like I'm in the middle of the woods with 23 pavers, because that's what I made it out of. And those were comments what people would make. You know, how are you in the middle of the woods? Would you backpack those in? You're in your backyard, aren't you? And that was my first video that went kind of viral. And now the point is to folks that aren't as far along as you are, maybe as far along as I am, it only takes one video. Because when Tasty decided to pick up one of my videos, and what they did was they just went on my Instagram and copied 4 or 5 videos and put them together and put a little words and stuff on it and what I like to do. When they posted that overnight, remember I was trying to get to 1,000? I think I had gone to like 3,000 on Instagram. I went from like 3,000 to 30-some thousand on Instagram. And for somebody that's trying to build their content, and he's not a famous person and not just a dad.
Feel like you hit the lottery almost?
You feel like you hit the lottery, because in the end, now we're trying to sell seasoning.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to do. It all gets back to I'm trying to make a difference to make people cook better tasting food and motivate people to do something that makes a difference, something that you love to do. And the more people I can touch on social media, the more people I can touch on TikTok, the more people I can touch in this world to get to do that, to chase their dreams, to try and make a difference, to cook a meal for your family. We always cooked meals for our kids, and to sit around our table, and I know it drove them crazy. Every single one of them kids had to go around and give a good and a bad. Every one of us, all 6 of us, good and a bad. And I'd say, oh, let's do good and bad. And they'd all roll their eyes, but they'd all give a good and bad as we sat around the table. You know, it's a way to talk and a way to build a family, something that I didn't have growing
And no
up.
electronics at the table.
Right.
What do you mean a
right.
good and bad?
Like
So-
a good thing in your day and like a bad thing in your day. Like you just would.
Why
go
would you
around
bring
the
up the
circle.
bad?
So we could help them get through,
okay.
get through the bad. Because as a young adult, you know, if somebody was bullying you, I mean, as a young kid, if somebody's bullying you or something happened,
just
you know,
double
you
leg 'em.
can-
That's right.
right.
There you go.
You can. You know,
Riley
help
knows
them talk
jiu-jitsu
to-
now.
Right, he's a scary dude, and you know that's another thing. You know, it's you know, just you know, find what you love, and as a parent, I think the number one goal as a parent, find what your kids love to do, and find a way for them to make that their job.
Hey, I mean, you know, your story is super impressive and all that stuff, and you seem like a super dedicated dad. Never missed a practice, nothing. But I haven't seen you at one practice over here at Violent Hippie, and I've even invited you several times
We'll get him in a rash
to
guard.
come
think-
over here.
I think it's a little.
He's scared.
It starts to get a little bit weird when the dad starts showing up at the.
I don't want you on the sidelines. I want
Yeah.
you on the mats.
But I will be at his competition.
I'm trying to make you the mat dad.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, but you know, and as far as Violent Hippie goes, and you guys, you know, I love Riley, and I really appreciate y'all welcoming him into this organization. And I'm a little biased, but Riley has a lot to give and a lot to share, and he's a great coach. And it's neat to see him in an organization where, you know, when he finished wrestling, you know, he was a really good wrestler, and he was a really trainable wrestler. You know, he always picked up on things. He was willing to learn, and he had an amazing drive. We had a saying that was called "Go 52." Back in the day, even when he was real young, you know, 52 was the number for the bad linebacker in the NFL. You know, you had Ray Lewis, you had Clay Matthews, you know, these
Patrick
guys that
Willis, bunch of guys.
they just went all out, so we called it Go 52. Go 52 is also 52 weeks out in a year. Happens to be my year. I'm 52 this year, so this is the year of 52. But we used to say Go 52, and that's the attitude that Riley has when he comes in. We also used to say touch the wall. What touch the wall means is whenever they would warm up in the wrestling room, kids would run around and stay right on the line because it's shorter and you could beat everybody else, as opposed to touching the wall each time around, not taking shortcuts, being the hardest working man or woman in the room at whatever you do. That's what I'm planning on doing, and that's what I do with what I'm doing. I'm going to be the hardest working person at that market. If you come to a market, I'm the hardest working person at that market. I'm the hardest working person making my videos. I'm the hardest working person. I'll sleep less. It's okay. You know, I'll sleep less. I'll work harder. That's the attitude of Go 52 and touch the wall. And that's what Riley brings.
That's the attitude of every successful person,
It's crazy,
you
isn't
know?
it?
So I said, you never find, you know, the only time that success comes before work is in the dictionary, you know? And if you have that type of mindset and that attitude, you can't not succeed, you know? I don't care, like, what, there is no excuses. If you give it your all, you will, and especially in today's society, like, because people do not have that mindset. We're such a instant gratification society, and like things have just been so
Given to
dumbed
us.
down and easy for everybody, and you know, and everybody makes excuses and for other people and themselves, and you know, and we're getting away from that culture of like. You know, like I heard the other day, they were saying their kids, when they go to football practice, they're not allowed to keep score at their games and stuff anymore because there's no winners and losers, and they don't want to hurt people's feelings. And it's, fuck that, man. You're breeding fucking losers, you know. So when you have that type of mentality, amongst all these fucking slugs that are just worthless eaters, you're going to just run fucking circles around them and you can't not be successful.
Right.
So, and if you have that attitude, there's nothing you can't achieve and be successful at.
Right, and Ryan's a great student too, and he's very dedicated. Because when we did have the breakfast club jiu-jitsu at the time, it was early morning. I could always rely on Riley to be there.
Yeah, because I had wrestling after school, so I would try to. But I love jiu-jitsu, so I was like, I got to get it in every morning.
Yeah, even if he was my only student.
Yeah, but hey, I learned so much in those morning classes, man. I mean, that one-on-one really helped a ton,
Yeah, and so the reason the AM classes stopped was one, I'm not a morning person. I mean, look,
I'm not either.
I'm a fucking night owl from the time I've been,
This is Batman.
Yeah, from the time I've been a little kid, I just always stayed up late, and like I just naturally I'm up late, and that's when I'm like just active, like my brain's active. It's hard for me to go to sleep, and over the years I actually got diagnosed with insomnia, and so like sleeping in and then waking up. I joined the military at 18, and then so being in the military there is no sleeping in really, and so. But that didn't change my just body's timing, how like my body just wants to be up, and I'm a night owl. So having to wake up at fucking 6 or 7 in the morning, my alarm going off every day just pissed me the fuck off. It was so hard for me to, get out of bed, and I just so pissed off because sleep never came easy for me anyway. And, sleep is so important for your health, your recovery, everything. And, so when I was in the military, like one of my goals in life, like every day I'd wake up pissed off, and I'm just like, one day I'm going to be so successful I never have to fucking set my alarm and I could just get up and do my day. And like the way I looked at it, I'm like, it doesn't matter what time you wake up, like, cause I'll work late at night, like shit, like back when I was building these Instagrams, I was in the military, when I started my stuff, and I was, like I said, I was going to work with the SEAL teams. Then, after work, I'd go to training jiu-jitsu, and then I would go from jiu-jitsu, get out at like 9 o'clock at night, and we would go to One Life, and I'd be there till 11 o'clock at night, working out, making videos, whatever. And then, come home and do my thing and have to wake up at 6, 7 in the morning, pissed off as fuck. And I was like, one day I'm never gonna fucking set my alarm. But there is also a difference when you set your alarm purposely, because I want to get up and go do something, or pursue something. But yeah, man.
I think something that helps with that too is, and this is something, back in my days.
Well, hold on. So that's why Mike was running our breakfast club classes. But he's also he also hates mornings, but he was like, give me something to get out of bed. Give me an excuse to get out of bed and something that holds me accountable. So I was like, all right, so I'm paying him to come in and run the morning classes.
Sleep in a little bit.
And I could sleep in because I run the night classes. Right. And then but then after a while, we had several students in the breakfast club, come in, but then after a while it was just Riley. And, because the other people didn't want to wake up if there was a night class option. They're like, I'll just go to the night class. And so for like a while there, it was
like a month.
Mike and Riley. And for those you don't know, like I've had my
friend.
Yeah, I've had my jiu-jitsu academy open for a year now, and I haven't charged anybody tuition. So, the deal was you buy a gi and it comes with free training. Right. So all these people were coming to jiu-jitsu and getting free training, which is cool. I wanted to build up credibility as a gym and everything, and get a good reputation and everything. And I wasn't going to make people pay for that, when this is sort of a learning experience for myself as well. And, like Mike and I are both black belts, and Mike's been a black belt for almost 9 years, but we're still, neither one of us have ever been a professor where we're teaching jiu-jitsu. And there's a huge difference in knowing jiu-jitsu and teaching jiu-jitsu. And so that, and the details really matter. And so that was something that I also felt like I need to really become, good at this before I feel comfortable charging people. I'm not guessing. This is something like I've been doing now for a year, and now we are going to finally start charging, still not a lot of money, but enough to where I'm paying the other black belt instructors here to be here because, I like having a lot of experience in the room to provide for the students and different perspectives as well, because my game is different than Mike's game. Like, of course, the mechanics are still the same of an arm bar, but when you have different body styles, different different styles of jiu-jitsu, maybe Mike's style works better for someone like Riley versus where my game wouldn't be as beneficial to Riley because our body types are different, whatever. So I like having the different perspectives in there. So I'm paying all of the black belt instructors to be here and coach because, I'm value everyone's time. So I'm paying. So basically it was like, I'm paying for Riley's private lessons. Yeah. And I was like, no offense to Riley. I love Riley. But he can just come to the fucking night class and, because it doesn't matter if you're teaching one person jiu-jitsu or 20 on the mat, like it's the same amount of time. And so I was like, Riley can just come. I told Mike, I was like, Riley can just come to the fucking night classes. Because right now I'm just paying for his private lessons. So
and Riley probably felt too, he wanted, somebody needs to show up, so I'll just keep showing up too.
Yeah, so Mike and Riley were both bummed out that the morning club had to come to an end, but that's why.
Right. Makes sense. I when I worked at Cisco, one of the things I also did was I was a training manager, and I sent out a Monday morning inspiration. Every Monday morning, I would send out a little inspiration, and when I stopped keeping track, I was at 368 was my last number, so that was a week. So number 368 was 368 weeks. I was sending out this Monday morning inspiration where I send a little, positive vibe thing out. And it's weird. My point here is it's weird how when you find something that you love to do and you build towards it, how all of it works together. All of that, sending out those Monday morning inspirations. I've got tons and tons and tons and tons of things that I've written. Those long captions that you sat on a plane and you wrote it and took you a long time. I've got all these long captions and stuff in my notes and in my journals that I can always go back and look at and, to send some motivational stuff out. And that's making a difference. It's just deciding what you want to do and then getting after it. That's cool.
Yeah, it all boils down to effort, and that's the thing, that I always come back to and look at is all the things that I've done in my life, all the things I've accomplished, whatever, people, hear my resume or know me personally in my resume or whatever. And they're like, man, I can't believe you've done all this stuff at 34, and I don't think I'm anything special at all, and, I know I'm not, that's the thing. I don't think I know I'm not special. I'm just a normal dude that, came from nothing. And the thing that has got me to where I am is just effort, and it's not even being great at anything because I'm not great at anything. It's literally just effort, giving effort in whatever I'm doing and pursuing it, with a tenacity, and
really leaning into it.
Just make it happen,
Just cook.
That
shirt you're wearing, that
That's
comes
right.
from the restaurant world where, when you get in the weeds, you have tickets lined up on the board. That's what in the weeds are. You can't see the tickets. So when you hear someone say, I'm in the weeds, that's what it is. And you're stressed out because you have all these tickets and then ticket machines rolling onto the floor. What you have to do when you're overwhelmed in whatever you're doing, if you're overwhelmed by something, is just take it one step at a time. Just cook. Just do whatever you're doing one step at a time, and you can tackle these giant projects that you have going on. And that's the idea behind the Just Cook is, of course, I'm using cooking for it, but the idea behind Just Cook is you just got to start. That's how you start stuff.
You just got to do it for sure.
But don't even think about it.
The way you start is you just start. And when you just start cooking or just start doing whatever you're doing. That's that first step. They say the only way to eat an elephant
One bite at a time.
with MAD seasoning.
That's right.
Right. But that is true. It's one bite at a time. You know, it's a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. If you take 10 steps forward and then all of a sudden you have 4 steps back, guess what?
You're still 6
You're
steps
still
ahead.
You're still 6 steps ahead. And, you know, if you keep doing those 10 steps every single day
Yep.
while you're doing your full-time job or whatever you're doing, while you're raising your kids.
It adds up.
It adds up. And then all of a sudden, when you do get an opportunity that comes up to leave your job or to do what you really want to do, you're not starting from scratch. You know, when I say I burnt the boat, I burnt the ship, I didn't have insurance, I didn't have all this sort of stuff, but I had already been building things that I was pretty good at, and that's how it worked.
Yeah, I mean, like with me, I mean, you know, I had built the Instagram to, you know, give back as a way for my sponsors for the fighting and all this stuff. But, you know, like, and same thing, when I started, you know, I remember having like 10 followers, and I remember our friend at the time, Oscar, had 1,800, and I was like, wow, he's like a
look at
celebrity.
that. Yeah.
I'm like, that's crazy. I don't know 1,800 people. That's fucking nuts. And I remember like when Mike and I would post, Mike had like 300 or 400 something.
I still do. But.
And but like he would post and get, you know, 100 likes, and like when I posted I would get 10 likes because I had 10 followers, or my mom and, you know, Mike or whatever. And then like when Oscar would post, he would get like you know, it was like close to multiple hundreds of likes, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, that's crazy, you know. And then yeah, like we're making our videos and all this shit, putting that effort in. And then when I got to 5,000 followers, I remember thinking, this is insane.
Yeah.
I don't even know 5,000 people. Like, and you know, that's when like someone had reached out like, hey, I want one of your shirts, one of your fight shirts. And I'm like, you don't even know me.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, why the fuck do you want one of my shirts? You know? I'm
I
like,
mean, I bought a Violent Hippie shirt. I remember I bought a Violent Hippie shirt before I met you, just because I liked the Violent Hippie. I was like, you know, that kind of describes me, you know,
Yeah.
like cool, calm, collected. But if it comes down to it, I'm ready to get violent. You know
For
what
sure.
I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought that was badass. And then I bought the shirt, and then it's crazy how it all comes together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was years ago, huh?
Yeah, that was
Because people don't know, Violent Hippie, I turned into its own brand, but that was a MASF shirt originally. That was just one of my regular shirts. Oh, you saw me fight at the TED?
Yep. I saw you and Samson, and then I saw the Smash and Frog trailer in the parking lot, and I was like, you know, that's pretty sweet. And then I started following you, and then I was like, yo, I'm going to get a Violent Hippie shirt. And I remember I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I was like, you know what, I'm going to just do this because it's badass to wear to wrestling, and then
Nice.
holding it down.
And that's another thing, too, that as an older fella, you never know who's watching. You never know I'm covered in goosebumps right now. You never know who you are inspiring, who you are motivating, who is looking at it and saying, you know, I think I'm going to start walking.
Yeah.
I can walk.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's...
Oh, I dude, trust me. I know.
So I always tell that to people that, you know, even if you think that you're not making a difference, you can. You can be making a difference, and you have no idea. And, you know, the last thing I'm going to talk about here is this MAD revolution. So MAD revolution, we talked about getting people to sit around their table and eating more food together. And just like you were saying, you know, with your rolling here in the gym, it doesn't matter what your religion is, doesn't matter what your political belief is. It doesn't. It's a way for folks to get together and just enjoy.
It would have been awesome if we had some food here.
Right.
I'm on day 9 of my fast. So.
We would not dare bring food.
No, hey, you know what?
I would hate it.
I consciously suffer, so
Yeah.
I don't give a shit because I'm choosing to do this.
Right.
Dude, you know, and I've been doing this. This is my 50th fast or something like that. It's crazy. So, but it's, you know, this is how I started fasting to cut weight for my fights, which I think that my fast would be amazing in the wrestling community.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I don't know why, you know, more wrestlers don't know about this. And I'm like, this is a life hack for you guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
you know, because you're not like just fasting totally and not eating and taking in any nutrients and training hard as fuck like that. That's not good.
And
you're going to
Mitch,
stunt your growth,
that's-
all that stuff. And
That's
it's
what they do.
I know.
These kids.
That's why Riley's 3 feet tall.
That's what they do. What they do is they work. The ones that are really at a high level
Serious, yeah.
wrestlers, they are working out 2 and 3 times a day, and
Hungry.
They're hungry.
Yeah.
So because they can't until they make that weight,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a huge opportunity. It's weird how things like that happen.
What's
Yeah.
the biggest weight cut you've seen?
I've
Someone-
seen her
someone do.
probably like 18 pounds in a week.
I did 24 in a day, but like, I mean, but mine says everything. Don't be
Yeah.
a pussy. And but like the fast is such a life hack for wrestlers. I'm telling you right now, it will make your life 1,000 times easier and more enjoyable and healthier. You're still able to drop serious amounts of weight, but have a bunch of nutrients in you and everything. So, but anyway, what the fuck was I gonna say? Cutting weight, fighting. What were you talking about? The
MAD revolution is what we talked about.
fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. I was going with that. Damn it, Mike.
Well, I didn't say anything. I didn't interrupt you.
It's your fault. No, but I don't remember what I was gonna say. Maybe it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
But
And all the folks that have supported this, we are so unbelievably grateful. It's just like when you said that person bought that T-shirt from you, and you were like, "Well, you want to buy a T-shirt from me?"
oh, it's a super cool feeling.
It's just a really neat feeling, and to be able to coach or to be able to teach or to be able to inspire a person is, that should all be part of our game plan in life, to do that for someone else, to do that for another human, and to be able to be given this opportunity to do it, just making this little seasoning, that salt and pepper. And
Are you looking to have any other type of
yeah, so we've
seasonings and
got
stuff like that?
So the way it's going to work is, no one take my idea here. The idea is, so this is the original. We have a bigger one that's for the chef and for the restaurants and our true addicts. It's called the Chef's Batch. And then we're going to, in the process, I almost have it ready, the low sodium. So there's a low sodium one that has all the same ingredients, just less salt, a quarter of the salt. And then I'm going to do, hopefully by July, I'll have the red, white, and blue. So the blue is seafood, and the red is a barbecue rub.
yeah.
And this will be the original, which will be white, and the low sodium will be the black one because it has more black pepper. So the red, white, and blue. And it all gets back to that. This is the American dream, y'all. Finding something that you can build yourself that takes you out of your corporate world. It's like when people think of this is the American dream. I'm tired of doing this job. I need to find something else to do.
Right.
That's what we happen to do. And we're making America seasoning. And that's the idea behind it.
Well, I hope Mike Doe has been listening, because I've been trying to get him to leave his corporate job and come on board with me. He's been around since day one.
10 followers.
Day one, 10 followers. He watched.
Still 10 followers.
MASF wasn't anything. MASF became a thing when people started wanting to buy my fight T-shirts.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then I thought it was super cool when I would see people post a picture of them wearing my Smash and Frog T-shirt, and I'm like, damn, that's so cool, blah blah blah. And then it was like, but people are pretty much only wearing those my fight days,
Right.
And I was like, man, I got to think of something that people wear every day, and that I was saying mindset is everything all the time,
Right.
and I was like, maybe I'll throw that on a shirt. Right. Threw that on a shirt, bam, fucking, I dropped, and I've always been like a little T-shirt snob, and like I like T-shirts, and I wanted things that what made a statement, and like when every time I wear my mindset is everything T-shirt and go out in public, someone's like, yeah, the mindset is everything. I like that. Or the same thing with the Violent Hippie shirt. Everybody it's like not everybody, but the people that see it and resonate with that, either the mindset is everything, don't be a pussy, attitude is contagious, the Violent Hippie. When people see that, they resonate with it and they're like, yes.
Right.
And they compliment me or whatever, and I'm like, hey, here's a business card.
Yeah.
Mitch, there's so much that is in what we're doing and what you're doing. There's so many similarities.
For
when
sure.
it comes to the T-shirt, I decided I'm going to wear a MAD seasoning T-shirt, a MAD T-shirt, something to do with it until we hit $1 million in sales. I'll wear it every single day until then. Now, the idea behind that, and I never wore them very often. It was weird. I just didn't. So now I wear them all the time, and people are always asking us,
What's that?
What's MAD? And I always start with, it means makes a difference. That's the first thing I start with. And then I say, you can be a mad dad, you can be a mad mom, you can be a mad whatever. This happens to be an amazing seasoning that makes a difference and makes you a better cook. But the idea behind it is anybody can make a difference. And that's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
And so whenever I wear these shirts,
It's not just a product. It's you're trying to create a culture.
It's the mad revolution. That's exactly what it is. And it's not just a seasoning.
And a
it's
community can be formed around that,
I
know.
agree. I
And the
agree
same
totally.
thing with MASF.
Yep.
MASF became a community, know, and with the fasts and everything being supportive, and when everyone does the integrity challenge, it's like when someone posts on social media and says, "Hey, I'm going to do this 10-day fast. Here I am, blah blah blah," and hashtag Smash Ingredients, hashtag MASF, whatever. Like our supporters all follow that hashtag, and so we post it on our story. So when a new person does it, they get hit with 25 people that are cheering them on, and they're like, holy shit, I didn't know. I thought this was going to just be me doing some posts or whatever, and now all of a sudden I got 30 cheerleaders saying, hey, you can do this, let's go, you got this,
It's
mindset
so
is
awesome.
everything. And it's like, fuck, attitude is contagious,
There's-
so it's like, damn, I'm not going to let these people down. They believe in me or whatever, and then they realize how impactful and helpful that was for them in their journey, that they want to pay it forward,
Right.
And I encourage people to do that. I lead by example, you know what I mean? And even shit like this is me paying it forward to you guys, like I want to see you guys succeed and stuff, and this is a way that I can give back and help you guys, but yeah. And like with Mike, like again, what I keep coming back to, he's fucking seen me from day one build MASF from nothing in my, just an idea out of my spare bedroom to fucking all this,
Right.
and then it was like Adopt a Cop was just an idea, and now it's a fucking national charity. Then we're in all 50 states and have over 1,000 gyms affiliated. We've graduated over 170 blue belts, and it's like, then you know what? I'm going to start Violent Hippie as its own brand and, make an academy. Now we have 75 students, and, we've been a thing for a year. We're crushed tournaments when we show up. Now we've got some, actual, we have an actual community building, and, come at our next belt ceremony, you have fucking probably 10 blue belts in our gym, and, it's becoming a thing. And I'm like, motherfucker, you've seen me do this over and over and over. And he's like, I don't know. I'm pretty comfortable with my job. But his skill set, he's such a good videographer, and, can bring so much to the businesses and all that with his skill set, and because content is king, it's so important and all that stuff. And I've been trying to get him to fucking go all in, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, professor here, everyone loves him, and I'm like, bro, we can go all in on this.
What do you do for a living?
Cybersecurity for the government.
Okay.
So
He works for the enemy.
So my hesitancy is like, I have a daughter, so I want to make sure I'm able to provide for her.
He's got 3.
Like that. I know, and I was gonna ask you, like, when you left Cisco to kind of venture to do your own thing, did you have like a little bit of like, I won't say fear or whatever, but being able to
Definitely
provide for your kids?
And it was a fear. It was a fear. You're taught from a real young age that
Play it safe.
This is what you need to do, and especially when you have. And if I would have talked to my parents about it and said, if I would have talked to my mom and said, this is what I'm planning to do, she would have looked at me like, you are making a mistake.
My dad. How do you think I told how do you think went with my dad, who has no fucking clue about social media at all or anything like that? And my dad was in the military for 10 years and got out and got a government job, and he's still working that to this day. Yeah. And, no one in my family came from money or anything like that. But so that's his background, worked hard for everything, that he's ever had, whatever. And, I'm in the SEAL teams. you know, and I'm 10 years in and I'm like, hey, I'm going to leave the SEAL teams and I'm going to pursue, you know, fighting and,
Social media.
and my Instagram,
Yeah.
you know, and he's like,
What?
what?
Yeah.
And like, and I have a house, I have, you know, I have bills, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I have no retirement, no nothing saved up or zero money saved. I'm $30,000 in credit card debt.
Yeah.
Hey dad, I'm going to
Yeah.
leave the SEAL teams and pursue my Instagram and fighting.
So Mike, when you asked that question about, you know, did I have fear or did I have a lot of that sort of thing, you can work out ahead of time. You can build a plan together. Like I had everything written down long before this opportunity came available. You know, I had, okay, this is if Riley and I do this many classes, how much money do I need to make to be able to have, I know what it was. So talking about that MMI, Monday Morning Inspiration, I used to teach these classes to server training for servers. And servers, you know, how do you motivate a server to do a better job serving? The only way you can really motivate a young kid that doesn't want to do that job forever is to, okay, this is how you make more money. You make more money by building relationships with your customer. Like I always call it the ABCDs. Always be collecting dots of information. ABCDs. Always find out what's important about somebody, building a tree fort for their kids in their backyard, or whatever's important about it, and make it important to you. And then you start to build relationships. So I would teach this in these server training classes, but I always started them off with giving everybody an index card. And this is big. Everybody an index card. And on that index card, I'd tell them, okay, you're 16 years old, 18 years old. What is something that you'd like to have in 1 year from now that you can't afford now? What is something that you'd like to have in 5 years from now that you can't afford? And what is something that you'd like it to be like, holy mackerel, I don't know if I'm ever going to get that, but that's what I want. I want you to write it down on an index card right now. So they'd write it all down, and I'd write mine down. What I wrote on mine was I wrote down, this was almost 10 years ago when I started doing this. I wrote down a black Jeep jacked up. So I had 4 kids. Riley's 22 years old now. So Riley would have been 12 years old. Mia would have been 14. And Ruby would have been 10. And Anna would have been 8. So a Jeep for me was out of the question. Because first we couldn't afford it. And you couldn't fit all the kids in it. You couldn't take everybody.
So that's just a you thing.
That was just a me thing. So I wrote it and drew the picture of that Jeep. Jacked up, you know, big tires, loud stereo. Doesn't make a bit of sense other than that's what I want. And I also want freedom, and I also want a pool. And every single time I taught that class, I would do the same exercise and I would do the same thing. You know, that original index card is hanging up on my bulletin board in my office at the house. And you know where that Jeep is?
Sitting out in that parking lot.
Out in that parking lot right now because I was willing to take a chance and build towards that. So as far as the fear goes, if you plan out what you want to do, I could talk you through how you do it. Find out how much money you have to make. That's where you start. You don't start with, okay, I make $150,000 a year right now. You don't need to have $150,000 a year. You've just decided that this job that's not super important to me is more important than my freedom. And that's what I've decided to do. So, you know, I would work 50, 60 hours a week at Cisco, and I decided that comfort of having that insurance, having that 6 weeks off, having knowing
just that comfortable,
not pushing me, not being challenged at all, but not being happy. I decided that was more important than doing my own thing.
I need the pressure, man. I need a carrot dangling in front of me. I need something to chase. And the pressure, you know, pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah.
That's right. You
and
know,
when you burn the freaking boat,
you don't have another option.
That's pressure. And the idea behind burn the boat, I'm sure most people know this. If you're going into battle and you're getting ready to,
there's no retreat.
You take the boat with all of your people on it and you end up on the island of the enemy and you burn that boat, you just got to cook. Just cook. You have to lean in and you have to go. And that's what it was. So when we decided to do it.
Yeah, it's so funny. You know Samson Saucer.
Yeah.
So Samson's been, you know, one of my little proteges for a while. I looked at him like a little brother, you know, and because I met him when he was in middle school, and I was fighting MMA, and he would always be at my fights, and we trained at the same gym and everything coming up. And I love Samson like a little brother, and it's so funny because he's asked my advice over the years. I've given him advice over the years, and one of the things we always joke about, I'm like, Samson, I'm like, bro, just get a credit card and just with like a $30,000 limit and just ball the fuck out and just back yourself into a corner. You have no option to succeed. And he's like, Mitch, that's terrible advice. I'm like, nah, man, that's what I did.
And it's it all gets down to we get one opportunity here. We get one shot. That Eminem song, we get one shot, one opportunity to make a difference. And
capture it, let it slip.
And, right. Either that, and it starts with that Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror. That's who has to start. If you want to change, just like on the back of that card, it has to start with you.
Yep.
If you want less litter in the world, you need to pick up 10 pieces of trash, that sort of stuff. So it's, I'd be glad to talk to anybody about how I came to the mindset of, this is something that we can actually do. And we had no idea, y'all, that this was going to be a thing.
And now it's
like the main deal.
This is how we pay our bills, is this little seasoning right here.
And is the goal to have in like supermarkets?
Yeah, so our goal is, and that's a constant argument my wife and I have, and we actually met with a lawyer yesterday, is to decide when we want to get the price right for it to go into supermarkets. And when that happens,
that's right. Yeah. I mean, and it's so cool. It's so awesome to see and hear about. I love people that take that risk and then reap that reward, And of course, if you knew for sure that M.A.D seasoning was going to be a huge success and all this stuff, of course, it's easy to make that leap, but it's not a guarantee, and you don't know what the future holds. So many people look at the negatives, and of course it's smart to look at the what is it called, the devil's advocate, and think about things that could go wrong. But I don't think enough people think about the things that could go right.
It can paralyze you too, man.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think enough people think about like the things that can go right. I look at things that can go wrong. I'm like, yeah, it could go wrong, but could go right. And and it's like I would rather focus on the things that could go right and
waste the energy on.
And I'm saying, like we've talked about, if you're fucking obsessed and dedicated with that, making it happen and making it go good, how could it not?
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's one of those things that it's if you just decide to go for it and really, really go for it, like burn the boat, I'm going all in, something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And, my granddad taught me a long time ago, he said, you always need to have a side hustle. And when that side hustle, even if you're not doing what you love to do, but your side hustle is something you love to do, every single 10 steps you're taking, you're getting closer. Now, here's the thing I don't get about the human race, which is weird, and something that I battle with. We can always remember the failures. We can always remember the bad things that go on. We can always remember, but we don't give enough. We don't think about the things that go right.
I think it's an evolutionary thing, because you have to remember the things that go wrong
so you can survive.
So you don't
do them again. But the thing about, something that I would do in my life is when things started getting down or things, and I've suffered from depression. I've been on Prozac. I've been on, all sorts
big
of things.
Guy.
I was almost 200 pounds.
Really?
I had started a business and it failed and we lost all of our savings. And I decided to get out of cooking for a short period of time. And when I did, lost all of our savings. We were on welfare. It was as bad and in the dumps. I had 4 kids, 4 of them all underneath the age of 6. And I didn't have a job. And I was like, and that's when I jumped really heavy into the corporate world because I knew I could fall back on that. But I was in really, really bad shape. And what I've learned from that is sometimes you need to make a list of your goods too. sometimes you need to make a list of your positives too. And it's not being bragging. What it is it helps you survive when shit gets really bad. In a bad situation, you can look back and say, these are some of the things that have gone good. So obviously they can go good again.
Did you have like
Yeah.
a turning point moment that when you were like 200 plus pounds? or
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah.
Like, what made you like?
I was at the point, and you know, sometimes when you get so down in the dumps that you don't see a way out, it doesn't feel like you're going to make it. You can either decide to fight, or you can decide to give in and keep going downhill. You know, I could be 300 pounds now. I could be dead.
Do you remember that moment though?
Oh, I
Like,
do.
Was
I
there a
do
certain
remember.
thing that made you?
There's a verse in the Bible where it talks about the bulls from Bashan, I think's what it is, are coming after me and they're going to tear me up. And I thought the bulls were after me every single morning. And so then I just started building. Rhonda attended a birthday party with a fella friend, and that fella friend is a doctor in the area, and he happened to be friends with some people that worked at Cisco. And he said, Rhonda, is Matt still cooking? And she said, no, he stopped cooking for a little while, but he's looking at getting back into it. And he said, well, I can talk to somebody. So Danny said to Rhonda, have Matt put his resume together. So I did. And then like 6 months later, I'm crossing a bridge, the high-rise bridge here, and I get a buddy from back in the day who works at Cisco, and he was the executive chef at Cisco, and he said, hey, I got an opportunity for you if you want to come in and talk to us. And I went in there and had my interview, and it was, at that point, I never totally gave up, and that's what did it for me. And then from that point on, I've seen the dark side, and now all I do is push positivity and no negativity. That's just how it's been.
Yeah.
Good energy.
I think, you just got to give it your all, man, and just go in sometimes. And, like the thing also that reminds me, or I'm like, I know myself and my work ethic, and if I totally fail, fall flat on my face and go back to fucking zero, realistically, I have a skill set, I have a background that I can go get another job. There's always going to be opportunities to get employment somewhere.
From someone that's willing to work.
Whatever,
Right.
yeah. And like I have a background,
Right.
I have skills that like
Right.
I'm valuable to, certain things,
Right.
whatever. And if it had absolutely fucking nothing, I look back to when I was in 5th grade and I went door to door pushing that lawnmower door to door, and hey, knocked on your door. Can I cut your grass for $10? Sure.
Mitch,
Cut the grass. Next, and I'm in a townhouse development. I would go into my court that had fucking 50 houses in the court, and in a couple hours, I made $80 in 5th grade.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It's
there's no fucking excuse.
I agree.
There's zero fucking excuse. Like, I don't care if I'm 5th grade and can make $80 a day. There's absolutely no fucking excuse, and that's why I see fucking homeless people that are not even fucking homeless. I see these people that are able-bodied men that are 25, in their 20s, standing out there with a fucking sign, and I just want to drop kick them as hard as I can and just beat the fuck out of them. I just.
So I look at it.
Makes me so mad because I'm like, go pick up dog shit.
Right.
Go fucking knock on someone's door and say, what can I do to help you?
Right.
But
So I did the same thing growing up in the Western Branch neighborhood.
that's like,
And
that
it
gives
builds
you
your
that gives
foundation.
you the confidence, or me the confidence to be risky as fuck.
Right.
Because if I lose it all, I can rebuild.
Right. So I had to be careful. I couldn't be risky as F because I had 4 kids depending on me. But I knew I was taking a very calculated
But you still
risk.
have a skill set.
Right. I can always go back and cook.
Right.
I can go anywhere. I've always said my number one quality, my number one job ability is I can cook. You know, I can put flavors together and make them taste good. But I did the same thing. I cleaned gutters. I cut grass. We used to sell bubble gum. Me and Pat Viola from Vico Construction, we used to sell bubble gum at Western Branch Junior High School. And then they said they couldn't sell it anymore, so I started putting it in my chess set. I had a fold-up chess set where you put the pieces in the little.
We'll have to play. I like chess.
I would put the bubble gum flavors in there, and we would sell them from that. And it was one of those things that, you know, when you have the hustle in you, you have the hustle in you, and you can get a job anywhere.
Yeah, you'll make it happen. Sink or
Right.
swim, just cook. You know,
Right.
get it done. And I keep fucking trying to get this guy to go all in. You know, I'm like, you're just gonna keep watching me build these businesses.
Mike, I'm gonna leave you with one piece of advice: read the book "Crush It" by Gary Vee. Gary, it's an unbelievable book on how you can things that you already know, but it's nice to see it put out in front of you. Of okay, and then you write it down on paper. If you really want to not do it anymore, that's the whole thing. I mean, if you're interested in no one is stuck on a job if you have another side hustle or something else that you love to do that you're able to do it. Yeah. You know, like if I loved scuba diving, but I've never scuba dived, and I want to go out and start scuba diving and have that as my full job and go from making $100,000 a year to nothing as a scuba diver. That's not, I have to build up to that. Mm-hmm. But I could start taking scuba diving lessons. I could start making videos. I could start reviewing equipment.
Yep, just slowly putting in that effort, and then like we talked about, you know, and those are the steps that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Like you take a couple steps forward, you take a couple steps here, you take a couple steps there, and after a year or 2 or 3 of taking a couple steps,
You're 4 miles down the road.
Yeah, now you look back and oh shit, I've covered some distance.
And that's why you journal and do that sort of stuff too, so you can always look back on it and say, and that's, you know, this is where so my Instagram has been deleted 5 times. I'm 4 times. I'm on my 5th account now, and it sucks because all that journaling you did on Instagram.
It was like my original account from day one. My day one post of me, you know, on the podium with a hat on at a jiu-jitsu tournament of my first sponsor, you know, and until like everything I did. You know, and I would put, like I said, tons of effort into those captions, and you know, it was like it was my journal, and it was a video journal, and pictures and captions and feedback from, you know, my followers and like memories, you know, of my whole journey, and they just fucking deleted that, gone forever, and I'm like, fuck, I don't have any of that shit.
So a lot of what I do is like when I do make a big caption or something I think is pretty important, I'll just copy it and put it in my notes.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
It's not the same.
It's
but
not, I know it, but it's just so someone can learn from what happened to you. Like if I were to lose my Instagram now, I still have all of the saved videos and all the saved pictures and most of my big captions that I've made, but it's so easy to look at stuff in hindsight and say, well, Mitch, why didn't you just do it this way? You know?
Right. Well, and it's not just even that. It's the interaction, you know, it's the feedback from a big post that's meaningful and impactful. And then all the people that like either debate or whatever, what kind of reaction did that stoke from people? And, you know, how impactful was that? And all that shit is gone. And it's just like, man, when I got the call, I remember Kyle, my COO, called me and he's like, hey man, your Instagram's gone. Oh. And I was like, the fuck are you talking about? And I logged on, gone. And
you can even log on if it's gone.
No, I mean, it just said user not available or whatever. And I remember just thinking like, this was 5 years of work that like I had put more effort into this than you know.
Yeah, 370,000, right?
370,000 followers, and was verified at the time before you could just buy it for $10.
$10,
and you know, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, wow, I was standing in my house, my physical house, but I felt like my house had burnt down.
It's crazy.
You know, and they just took that away because I didn't go with the narrative.
That's why it's good to be everywhere on different social media platforms.
Yeah, and I was all in on Instagram because I didn't have anything else. and that was the only one that I had. That was what I put all my effort into. This was before TikTok was even a thing.
Yeah.
Do you find more success with TikTok or Instagram? Or?
Now I spend a lot more time on Instagram. It's my goal though to
Because you're established.
Yeah, my goal this year is to spend more time on TikTok because I don't know what's going to happen with TikTok. So I want to, get the most out of it.
Or
before-
YouTube Shorts.
I
YouTube
do all of them.
Okay.
I do, and that's Gary Vee talks a lot about that too. Gary Vee's brilliant when it comes to what we're trying to do to build our social media. The guy really has it. And VaynerMedia, they do more Super Bowl commercials than any other company out there. All of the big Super Bowl commercials are done by Gary Vee. And it's, when you think of, and, he even talks about that. He says, can you imagine investing, Super Bowl commercial is like $7 million, but it's not just $7 million. It's the film, the producer, it's all the other stuff that goes into it. All of a sudden you got $10 million. And what if he had a talk after the Super Bowl this year, 4 days afterwards, and he, with a bunch of people that had commercials and CEOs of those companies. And he said, there are people in this room, y'all, that invested $10 million, and I can't remember their commercial. Can you imagine that? And then he goes into and says, okay, what if you invested $5,000 into social media and you get a video that has 10 million views?
It's like
And
a
it's-
Super Bowl commercial.
And it's still out there again and again and again and again and again. And people just don't invest enough into social media.
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend money, but you can.
Well, that's what, and it's been going back to Mike, picking on Mike, it's been so frustrating for me because Mike has been with me from day one, and, so he knows me intimately. Like, we're very good friends. He knows how I am. He knows what I like, what I don't like, what would be, my flavor, my style and shit. And we've always worked super well together, and, but he's always been at his corporate job, and he makes good money there. And like, for coming up, like, I couldn't afford to pull him away from that, so I had to like work with less and like work with what I had,
Right.
and like working with videographers over the years, and like people that have just been a fucking nightmare and just a waste of money, and like people that don't get it.
Yeah.
And it's an art, it's a talent, you either have it or you don't, I think.
Right.
And I've never just had any luck with other people or whatever.
Right.
So it's always been like, I'm just wringing his neck, like, just fucking do it. But yeah, so hopefully this podcast inspired him.
It's very time consuming too. Video editing.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, yeah.
Definitely. Like, I plan on this afternoon going out to the farm and making a cooking video.
Yeah.
And, by the time I go to the grocery store, by the time I plan it out, by the time I get out there, by the time I build a fire, by the time I do the cooking, by the time I videotape it all, by the time I clean up, by the time I pack it back up, by the time I bring it back home, hour out there, hour back, wash all the dishes, get everything put up, it'll be 11 o'clock at night tonight by the time I get done. And then I haven't even touched.
The editing.
I was telling Ryan, I was like, how does your dad have time to do all this every day? Because I thought you did it every day. I was like, man, he's cooking shit every day.
Life is good.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find and purchase? Where can people find you guys on social media to follow and support your journey? And where can they find and purchase the M.A.D seasoning to also help financially support you guys and make their food taste amazing and make a difference in their food and lives?
If you just Google MattDad, but mattdad.com or the MattDad on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of that. The MattDad, like Mac Dad, but MattDad, MATTDAD. And that comes from my first name's Matt, and I've got 4 kids, and it's kind of a play on the Mac Dad.
All right, Riley?
All right.
At Riley Starcher, RILEY STARCHER, and also M.A.D Seasoning Instagram page. Trying to grow that up.
Yeah.
And if you just Google M.A.D seasoning, it comes up. It's the first thing that comes up. And then, we're in 32 locations. We ship all across the country, and we hit farmers markets all the time.
Do you guys do the fulfillment out of your house?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool too. You know, when
Yeah,
you
it's
gave me
real
a little
cool.
tour of your thing, and you said, you know, we do a better job fulfilling. Of course, you do. You know,
Oh, yeah.
you're able to.
You're
if you
passionate
want to
about
drop
it.
a little note in there, if you want to add an extra sticker or anything like that, you can.
It goes a long way with your customer, you know, and people like to, you know, they don't want to, I think, you know, a lot of people, they want to support, you know, homegrown
Right.
small guys, you know, small businesses, family businesses, stuff like that. They don't want to give their fucking money to Jeff Bezos and,
Yeah.
you know, all these people, billionaires and all that shit. They want to support, you know, the American dream. They want a good people that are deserving to, you know, succeed and have a good life. And it makes them feel good, you know. It makes me feel good to use your guys' seasonings, you know. And it's like, there's other seasonings out there in the grocery stores, fucking 50 to choose from, but you know, one, they're not as good. Two,
Yeah.
it's like these are supporting good people, and it, you know, and I'm happy to do that. And a lot of people are like that, and they're out there. And I just want to share this picture right here. This is from the day I decided to
Nice.
make
Isn't that
MASF a business.
Right on.
You know,
That's awesome.
right there. That was
That's
my
so cool.
Fucking sweet.
that was my original office.
Motivating.
And office / fulfillment center.
I'll do a post.
You know.
I'll do a post on mine.
Look at
Wow.
that.
Is that your bedroom?
Yeah, that's my spare bedroom.
That's-
right there.
That's awesome, man. I'll do a post on mine that where we started with it and where we are now. When Riley moved out of the house, we got the room above the garage, and that turned into our. And believe it or not, this operation you have here has inspired us a lot with what we do out of our room above the garage.
That's good. Yeah.
You know, it's the coolest to be able to come into. A
And I'd love to
workspace
help you guys out with
Yeah.
anything, you know, just advice or whatever, and you know, lessons learned, and
Yeah.
you know, if you
Yeah.
guys can avoid a pain that I encountered or whatever, you know,
Right.
pay it forward. And
Right.
yeah, I'm happy to help with that. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see, you know, how far it's come, and you know, like I'm sure it's been the same way for
Yeah,
you guys.
I
you know?
remember
Sky's the
dreading making the seasoning in
That
the
was
kitchen
terrible.
table. And now
Terrible.
we just pick it up in pallets,
Right.
you know.
You know, we used to make a batch, and we'd have to run eight cups of 1 cup at a time. We had a timer, so you poured 1 cup of peppercorns into this little coffee grinder, and you'd push the start button on the timer for 1 minute, and you would hold it down for 1 minute exactly. Because if you didn't, it didn't grind it enough, wouldn't go through the holes, or you'd have pieces of peppercorn. So to make one batch, we had to do that 8 times. So that was 8 minutes. So while that hand is holding it down, your other hand is doing other things, you know, pulling stickers out or unscrewing tops or putting tops on, because you had that minute and you didn't want to just stand there. Or I'd be watching YouTube videos of how to do whatever. Or,
Man, when I first started, you know, because MASF, before MASF supplements, it was MASF apparel, and you know, like I said, showed you those shelves with the T-shirts and everything like that. I mean, and I would go, you know, buy the T-shirts, bring them to the print shop, and before that had to make the graphics on the computer, whatever. This is what I want it to be on the T-shirt. Go pick up the T-shirt, fold the T-shirts, put them in there, and then like on the website, you know, had. But even before that, like my Smash and Frog shirts, like people, you know, when they start reaching out to me on Instagram, hey, I want to buy a shirt, and I'm like, oh, okay. I don't even have a website at this time. So like, I'm like, send me a check for $20 and what's your address? So I'm handwriting on an envelope and putting a T-shirt in the mail and hoping I get the $20, you know, on faith, and, you know, doing that. And now it's like, now I'm getting 20 people that want T-shirts, you know, and I'm fucking at the post office writing 20 envelopes out. And then when I got my website, like, and it was, people could type in their info, and then I bought a Dynamis printer that like had a sticker label on, and it was like, oh, these people already filled out their addresses and stuff, and I was just print. Boom. I was like, pfft.
And when we first started,
I felt like I'm like fucking Steve Jobs right now, you know.
When I had no idea what I was doing, I would go stand in line at the post office with my 3 that I was shipping out, not realizing
You
that
could just drop it
I
off.
could have dropped it off.
Yeah,
Made
dude,
the
I
label
would bring,
ahead.
and then when MASF like T-shirts started booming, you know, and I'm getting 20 orders a day, then, you know, and I was like, you know, like I said, Steve Jobs already just printing out them labels and slapping them on, and then I bring a laundry basket full of T-shirts every day to the post office, and, you know, I would go up there and just dump them in the box, ready to go. And I just felt like I was the most efficient motherfucker out there. You know, there's a line of people at the post office. I just walk in with my thing.
It's like you're cutting in front of them. They're looking at you like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Where we were standing in that line before thinking, wow, man. Why does that guy get to go right up there?
Right.
And finally, I asked William at the post office here in Great Bridge, I said, William, what are these people doing? Why am I? He said, you don't have to, just print it out, man. Go get yourself a little app or something.
Stamps.com or
whatever.
You know? I was like, man, this is
game changer.
Game changer. Yep. And now, like it's just gotten to the point where we're like a big ass operation now, you know, and I have people that work for me and this and that. Like the whole machine is just doing its thing, you know, and it's just crazy to think though. But and to me, it's like, I remember like it was yesterday of doing all that stuff in my spare bedroom and doing everything by myself because I didn't have employees, you know? But now it's like, and it seems like it was yesterday because to me, I've been in this every day, making those steps and giving that effort. There's 10 steps a day, 10 steps a day, 10 steps a day. And it's been 6 years now. So when I, look back 6 years, like, or when I like take a second and like take this in, it's like, oh shit, yeah, we've come a long fucking way, but it's also like I'm still that small business in my head, Right. And it'll be that way for you guys too. You guys are, just taking those steps, and but eventually the steps get bigger and bigger, like, because you're covering more ground. The pallets are, you frees up so much time, frees up efficiency, the volume, brings in a lot more money, and now you can just do things at bigger scale. So it's like your steps just become giant leaps.
They're less steps. They're bigger steps, and you get a lot further, just like you say, giant leaps.
And I tell everybody, when you start out in a business, I compare it to farming, and when you farm something, you are having to prep the soil. You got to do all this work at first and get the seeds in the ground, plant it, water it, tend to it, all this shit. And there's no fruit to bear. There's nothing to, your reward is not there yet, and you're putting in all this time and effort for nothing, but it's for a later reward. And then eventually it switches, where that tree is established and mature, and now it's just producing more fruit than,
and you
don't have to do shit. And you're just putting this shit in the basket,
That first time you did the strawberries, there was a lot of work, a lot of learning, a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of things. But after you do it one time, you've learned. And then the next time you do it, you're better at it.
You're armed with experience.
Right. So you're still doing the same thing, but you're better at it, so you're able to do bigger quantities. And just like you say, all of a sudden you grew a strawberry tree. Can you imagine that? A strawberry tree that just,
I say,
this is our money tree.
Experience is often gained right after you need it.
You're exactly right.
But yeah, man, it's great, and I'm super happy for you guys, and can't wait to see where you're at a year from now. 2 years.
I mean, thinking about a year last year, even from now, from what we were last year, it's crazy.
And and I'm excited for myself. MASF, MASF, a year. Adopt a Cop is only 2 years old.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Where's that going to be in fucking 5 years? And where's MASF itself? We've only been selling supplements for 4 years. Where's that going to be?
Right.
And another 4 years starting from this point. You know?
And there's so
Violent Hippie, this academy that I started a year ago. It was just us teaching some of my staff. I made it mandatory for the staff. Now we've got all these students, and we're growing a community and a brand, and it's really well received by everybody. It's a little family, and we're gonna go slay this tournament on Saturday,
for sure.
And we're gonna show up and show out. Riley's gonna take home double gold. I guarantee it. Or at least, I don't know if you're competing in multiple. He's gonna win his division 100%. I'd bet some tons of money on that. And but where's this academy going to be? Especially if Mike fucking grows some balls and comes on it all in,
Like, stuff like you said,
Get your mic.
touching on the wrestlers. I mean, that for cutting weight. I mean, that is huge.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
Gotta get them in.
That's like you're smashing greens. That's huge.
I would
huge
love to
opportunity.
especially for high school
Yeah.
students, because high school students, wrestlers who are serious about it and are competitive and want that edge, cutting weight is it's a part of wrestling.
Yeah.
It always will be, and these kids are hurting their bodies, they're stunting their growth. It's not fucking healthy, and I'm all for being competitive, and I know what it's like. I'm 205 pounds on average walking around, and I fought at 170, and I made that cut. So I know what it's fucking like, and I'm at 205 lean. So getting to 170 is not a fucking easy task. And I'm telling you, these smashing greens, it's such a healthier option for cutting weight, and you will perform better. You'll feel better. It's better. And I'm like, this needs to be in the regiment of all high school wrestlers across the country, and I feel like, how the fuck do these people not know about this yet,
Yeah.
So we need good wrestlers to get the word out. So
For sure.
but it's cool because you're a coach at Grassfield, right?
Yep.
And it's really cool. We've acquired a bunch of the coaches from Grassfield, and and all your guys who wrestled growing up together, kind of here at Violent Hippie, and I'm expecting to get all of your minions. They're
going to be demons too.
Yeah, they're going to come up, but you guys will be, like the blue, purple, brown, black belts eventually, and have all your lineage under them, have your previous wrestling students that you already have a relationship. You already know how they learn, how they, what drives them, this and that, coming in here, and then, getting to instill that jiu-jitsu in them and everything. And jiu-jitsu is a fucking game changer.
Dude. It's helped my wrestling game. Like when I go into wrestling now, there's little tricks that I learned, different grips, it's actually helped my wrestling game doing jiu-jitsu.
Ooh, watch out, watch the camera. Yeah, man. Your jiu-jitsu has come a long way for sure.
Yeah, I know. And I love what you told me in the first week. It was like, in wrestling, I felt like I was always comparing to other people, like my skill set, but you really broke it down for me when you were like, compare how you would compete against yourself your first practice compared to now. And like, I thought I was a bad dude coming in, with my wrestling background. But after that week of learning those chokes and those arm bars, I'm like, man, I would have killed that dude, no problem. You know what I mean? And then now to think from that first week to October to now, you know what I mean? Like, it's a big jump from that first day. You know what I mean?
Difference.
Do you like gi or no gi better?
I gotta say no gi, man. I like them both, but I like the when you get a good choke with the lapel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of wrestlers obviously are gonna favor no gi because well, here's my theory, is because I think, no matter who you are, when you first come into jiu-jitsu, you're going to suck.
Yeah.
In comparison to
sure.
people who do jiu-jitsu regularly or who have done it for years. You're just going to suck. It doesn't matter. You're a state champion wrestler.
Yeah.
You're not a slouch in grappling, but you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And this is an art that you're going to get fucked up in.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like for wrestlers, especially in no-gi, it's much more of a comfortable and familiar to wrestling and grappling, and can use your wrestling and grappling background, and it does make it like it gives you an advantage, you know. So it makes it you suck a little less, for when you're in the no-gi. So I feel like, people kind of lean more towards that. And not if you're even a wrestler, just if you're athletic, strong, because it's harder to finish sometimes in the no-gi because it's slippery and explosive and all that stuff. So it favors athletes and all that. So I feel like people kind of, shy away from the gi or just like lean towards the no gi because it's like, well, I don't want to suck that bad, but to me, I was always the opposite. I was like, I'm getting fucking crushed. I want to get better at this so I don't suck so much, man. And to me, jiu-jitsu just is more, there's more to jiu-jitsu when you put on the gi. That's more dimensional. There's more options and chokes and all that stuff. So, That's just me. But
That's what I told Riley too. When he started really.
and you can
involved in
always
this.
take the gi off
Yeah.
and roll no gi jujitsu. I fucking barely ever train no gi jujitsu,
Yeah.
and I just went out there and won the tournament in no gi. Because you still know jujitsu, you're still doing jujitsu. The grips are a little different. You grab the back of the neck and the wrists versus the collar and the sleeve. It's like little differences here and there, but.
I also
But
think
if you never put on a gi, and you're only training no gi, and then you go and roll with someone who's in a gi all the time, they're gonna strangle the fuck out of you.
I think gi conditioning too, it gets hot. Like I feel free when I'm in the no gi, I'm like, all right, I've been training all week in this gi and I get to take this off now. Like I feel like slick, you know what I mean?
It's like Super Saiyan or whatever, training that anti-gravity thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But all right, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and hearing your guys' story and getting to know a little bit more about you and the brand and everything. And it's been awesome to hear. And I'm looking forward to day 11 of my my fast ending, and because I'm gonna break my fast with some scrambled eggs, some avocado and bacon, and guess what I'm putting on all of that MAD seasoning. Take it to the next level, and that shit's gonna be excellent. I can't wait.
Hey, thank y'all so much for this opportunity. We really appreciate it, and we really love what you do. It's one of those things that you're inspiring folks and you're making a difference, and that's what it's all about.
Hey, maybe I could be a MAD seasoning, what do you call it, brand ambassador.
There. We'll sponsor y'all.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, we'll get another podcast in a year or so and then see where we're at.
Updates, upgrades.
Right on.
Yeah, MASF will probably be under. Violent Hippie just failed totally, and I'll be like...
It's cutting grass.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Mad Dad podcast.
Oh yeah. Good thing, Mike. You stayed where you're at.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Violent Hippie podcast. Remember, be kind or else.